Welcome to the second episode of a two-part series on what nonprofit CEOs and executive directors are thinking but rarely say out loud. The purpose of these two episodes is to shed light on common challenges and adversities that leaders like you are facing in a time like now. So if you missed the first episode, go back to culturecares.com/18 and then come back to this part two. Really, again, the purpose of these two episodes is that I really want you to feel seen. I want you to feel heard. I want you to know that what you are experiencing, the challenges, you are not alone. And so the earlier challenges I shared from the first episode were the exact language that nonprofit leaders shared with me during my personal research project that I did last summer in 2025. They said things like, I'm not always totally aligned with my board. They sometimes hinder, not help. The staff feel whiplash in a turnaround phase. They are tired of change. I don't want to admit things that I don't know. And right now we've been thrown into a lot of uncertainty. So those were the statements that I expanded on a little bit more, and the data I expanded on more last episode. And so for this second episode of the two-part series, I want to talk about a new theme. And the common thread and theme across the industry are these thoughts going through the minds of your peers. I'm catapulting towards burnout. The hours are crazy. Having really good boundaries is so important, but I'm struggling with this. And another one that really cut through to me was, how long do I have to personally sacrifice my health to get the work done? So let's address the significant issue in our sector about burnout head on. Welcome to Nonprofit CEO Spark, the podcast for bold leaders ready to navigate growth and change with energy and confidence. I'm Marcia Beckner, nonprofit founder, former executive director, and culture strategist with nearly 20 years in the social impact world. Each week, I help nonprofit leaders stop spinning out, set boundaries, and design inclusive cultures where all staff can thrive. If you're ready to reignite your leadership without sacrificing your well-being, hit subscribe and let's spark your next chapter together. As we know, burnout does not usually arrive with big fanfare. It creeps in little by little as the days get longer. There's shorter patience. There's less tolerance for nonsense. There's less margin for a personal life. Yet you still show up, you still function well on the outside, but the internal cost is rising. And when people confided in me that they know that they should have healthy boundaries, but they struggle, I get it. Most missions are so urgent in the social impact sector. Your hearts are so big for the cause that you've dedicated your career to that you may feel selfish not giving it 110%. So it's not discipline failure. Burnout happens when responsibility levels expand way faster than structure does. So let me say that again. Burnout happens because responsibility levels expand faster than structure does. When I listened to these leaders, I did not hear incompetence. I heard thoughtful, committed professionals carrying cumulative strain inside systems that were not designed for sustainability. And that distinction matters because when strain becomes chronic, leaders begin to internalize it. And maybe you can relate. If your staff are tired, you may feel like I failed them. If your board is misaligned, you may feel like you're not persuasive enough. If your hours are long, you may feel guilty that you're not efficient enough. And if uncertainty feels destabilizing, maybe it's because I'm not steady enough. But I want you to think about it differently. What if the pattern is not personal deficiency? What if the pattern is systematic overload? Hearing about all these challenges inside executive director and CEO minds is an underlying feeling of that imposter syndrome. So I want to underscore that there is a difference between being inadequate versus being overwhelmed. There's a difference between being unqualified versus under-supported. And there's a difference between being incapable versus operating without structural relief. So you are not alone in this. The research made that unmistakably clear. And as I mentioned, I can relate to you on so many levels. There was a season when I was an executive director where I believed I was the wrong person to do the job. And I was the founder. We were 5 years into our growth. The early scrappiness really worked as a startup. The passion carried us far, and the community relationships were strong. We were making a difference. But the growth changes the game. Our budget grew, our team expanded, and the complexity multiplied. And somewhere in that shift from startup to growth, I started assuming there were smarter leaders out there. I really did not want to fall prey to founder syndrome. I was very conscious of that. So I decided to replace myself. I searched for a leader who knew how to scale more efficiently, a leader who understood the systems at a level that I didn't, a leader who would move faster, make sharper decisions, and accelerate impact. And it didn't feel dramatic at the time. It felt responsible. So twice, 2 separate times, we hired an executive director to replace me. Why? Because I didn't believe in myself enough. If I'm honest, that belief was fueled by a massive amount of imposter syndrome and self-doubt. And I didn't call it that then. I called it stewardship. I thought I was getting in the way of progress, and underneath the fear, I didn't trust myself to navigate the new challenges of growth and change. And so here's what happened. Both leaders I brought in were good people. They were capable in their own right. They were really strong in some areas that I wasn't. And they brought skills I really did respect. But the result was the same. The organization wilted under their leadership. And in fact, what became clear over time was this. The issue had never been that I was the wrong person. The issue was that we had not yet redesigned our systems to accommodate the next phase of growth. So both times I stepped back in, and the second time specifically, I really did something different. Instead of asking and doubting, am I the right person? I started asking a different question. I asked, what does this stage of growth require from me? And I turned to my mentor for help. I stopped replacing myself and started redesigning the culture and the systems. I surrounded myself with staff members I trusted whose strengths complemented mine. I worked with team members who were exceptional in operations, in fundraising, and execution, leaders who, in their own right, did not think like me and didn't need to. We clarified roles, we rebuilt culture intentionally, and we made hard financial decisions. We faced the headwinds directly instead of quietly absorbing them. And together, we successfully implemented 2 simultaneous turnarounds, cultural and financial. Now, I will stand on a soapbox and always say that culture is the number one system to fix. And then you can hit those financial growth and health goals. That's what I see over and over again with my clients. When funding declines, that is feedback that something is not working. And very often it is the culture and the team alignment that just needs to be retuned. And what I learned back then was that when I doubted myself, the answer was not always to replace me. I tried that 2 times and it didn't work. So when imposter syndrome hits you, I want you to take a pause to evaluate the root cause of the problems. And remember that the saying is that the saying that comes from the military, I think, that slow is smooth and smooth is fast, is so true. So if you feel like you are catapulting towards burnout, if you feel stretched thin, reactive, or insurers in ways that are new for you, that is a moment to pause and seek outside support. Because when you are inside the pressure every day, it becomes very hard to see what's happening very clearly. And you know the saying, what is it? A fish cannot see the water it is swimming in. When you are immersed in complexity inside your organization, there are always blind spots holding you back, and you want to know what those are so you can overcome them. External mentorship was one of the best decisions I ever made as an executive director. My mentor was Rich Mail, and if you're in Colorado, you know who Rich Mail was. He was an extraordinary community organizer and founder of multiple organizations. He had a way of asking questions that widened my lens. He did not fix my problems for me. He helped me see them differently so that I could discover and explore new solutions. And the perspective he gave me really changed how I led and how I felt about myself as a leader. It strengthened my clarity, my courage, and my confidence. Rich taught me the difference between a leader and a manager, and that is exactly why I now offer one-to-one strategic mentoring through my Culture Cares Accelerator program. I know what happens when a capable leader gets perspective at the right moment. Leadership courage, clarity, and confidence are not personality traits. They are strengthened through reflection, support, and structure. And your health, your well-being, and your long-term sustainability depend on that. And that is why I care so deeply about this work, because no leader should have to carry this level of complexity and responsibility alone. Getting back to my personal research project from last year, what I saw mirrored in every conversation was that leaders are struggling with imposter syndrome and burnout. Now, they are not failing, they are normal, and every CEO and executive director can benefit from support from someone who's been in their shoes. So if you ever think, I need to be better for my organization, I feel like I'm not the leader my organization needs, I'm struggling with difficult conversations, and I want everyone to be on the same page, those are not personal failures. Those are signals that you may need upgraded skills or leadership identity glow up. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening. This episode is not about solving everything today. It is about humanizing the nonprofit leadership experience so you don't feel alone. It is about helping you understand that these feelings or insecurities are normal when you are humble. If you are listening to this podcast, it's because you have a growth mindset, and I'm so proud of you for that. I believe that with a growth mindset, anything is possible, and you can walk through any adversity. So before you think the answer is to quit and replace yourself, please pause. I invite you to schedule a Burnout to Boundaries session with me. You can find the link in the show notes or go to culturecares.com and click out Burnout to Boundaries. After working with one of my mentoring clients, she shared, I struggled with self-doubt and felt unsure to grow as a leader. After just a few sessions with Marcia, my confidence soared. Marcia connects on a deeply human level, quickly identifies core challenges, and offers insights tailored to my goals. Each session is a supportive space where vulnerability is welcomed and growth is tangible. I leave every conversation feeling empowered, focused, and fully equipped to perform at my best. This brings me a little bit to tears because it's really just me living my purpose, which is to help people. One of my research participants said something that really broke my heart. She said, how long do I have to personally sacrifice myself to get the work done? That should never be normal, and I know that unfortunately it's far too common. I want you to consider that you may be in the right role at the right time and be the perfect person to do this job. And you may just need a stronger support system around you to protect your energy, your health, and well-being as you work towards a mission you care about. If this episode resonated, please share with a peer. Share the 2-part episode with them, culturecares.com/18 and culturecares.com/19. Always remember, you are meant for great things, and you don't have to burn out to prove it. I'll see you next week. Thanks for listening to today's episode of Nonprofit CEO Spark. If you're ready to turn burnout into boundaries and build a healthy, happy culture where everyone including you, can thrive. Visit culturecares.com to learn how I support nonprofit organizations like yours. If this episode brought you value, share it with a fellow leader navigating stress and overwhelm. And remember, you are meant for great things, and you don't have to burn out to prove it. Until next time, keep leading with courage and confidence.